Hey, y'all, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. What's up, my brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all? Sorry about that. My computer doesn't show that green icon, and I don't use Facebook a whole lot. So maybe it was something I'm not looking for, but I'm glad to make it now. Sorry for the wait.
That's okay.
It's all good, my brother. I appreciate you. Um, we're very patient. You know, we cracked a little jokes while it was time for you to get on, but we're
I
happy to have
heard.
you on. I actually heard some great things about you, and how I actually got I haven't been introduced to you, but how you came across my path was through a mutual friend of mine, and I respect as a businessman, and so told me a lot of good things about you. My wife, I shared a couple of links with my wife, and she kind of looked up, you know, some things about you. We excited to about your path. We're excited about the things that you have going on. We're eager to hear what you have going on. I know my wife probably has a couple of things she probably wants to say before you get started, but I just want to let you know. How old are you, young man? How old are you?
37.
37, okay. And I just commend you for the path that you're on, man. So baby wants to say something before you get started.
I heard a few sound bites that my husband sent me. Very impressed, very impressed. I'm very excited to see a young man doing it big out here in the political world. It's not easy. So my hat goes off to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it seems as if you're representing us nicely, and you're speaking for the people. You're a man of the people, for the people. So I really appreciate that.
Right. And so just so you know,
I'm definitely trying my best, so I appreciate that.
So just so you let a little bit know about us, this is my wife Rebecca. I'm Christian. We have a podcast. Local business owners in the area, and so we have a couple of things. We have several businesses going on, but actually this show is not about us. I mean, the people that watch our show know what we have going on. I want to actually just let people know who you are, what you do. I'm gonna give you the platform to say what you need to say, get the message out there. We have anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 people that will probably watch this by tomorrow. So you have definitely a platform that can reach a lot of people in the low country. And we're both from North Carolina, so we have individuals from North Carolina that can have influence in this area as well. So with no further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself and let you, say your thing. And I want individual, we're going to have people that are going to probably chime in and ask questions. So from time to time, my wife may just interrupt you. She reads better than I do. She sees better than I do. So she'll probably read it and ask a question. And that way you can kind of, interact with, our community. Sounds good?
That sounds good to me.
Thank you, sir.
There's a bit of a delay. So just FYI, there's a bit of a delay.
But we're here, bro. Do your thing.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm running right there. So my name is Gregg Marcel Dixon. I am from Jasper County, South Carolina, and lived here my entire life, worked here my entire life. I'm a teacher, been a teacher for 17 years, and I'm running for South Carolina's 6th U.S. Congressional District against incumbent James Clyburn. That's who I'm running against. But it's more important to know for what I am running. I'm running for mainly reparations for Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves. That's the main thing on my platform. I have other things, but reparations is the main thing. And the reason being is because America's history, we've done reparations before. Japanese Americans who were thrown in internment camps in World War II for a few years got reparations. And this wasn't a long time ago. They got it in 1988 when I was 4 years old, okay? Native Americans, all the different Native American tribes, they all got reparations. Some of them still do get it. They get their tax exempt. They have land, the reservation system. Some of them get billions of dollars from their casinos, from their hotels. That goes straight into their pockets. Some of them get direct monetary payments, and some of them are exempt from certain laws, okay? My great-grandfather is a World War II veteran. He's from here in South Carolina as well, but he moved up to New York City. That's where he still is. But when we defeated the Nazis, my great-grandfather was there. the first thing America did was make the Germans give the Jews back all the land and property they had taken from them. So this country understands about repairing what you've done or what you've broken. They've done it for all these other groups. Right now, as we speak, Joe Biden, who I don't like at all, let me be very clear about that. I actually hate that guy. Joe Biden right now, as we speak, is trying to do reparations for illegal immigrants who came in the country illegally. He's trying to give them $450,000 per person because they came in the country, they went to jail, and were separated from their children. I find this quite funny coming from him. This is the guy that wrote the 1994 crime bill. Clyburn supported that crime bill. The crime bill locked up more black people since the days of slavery. It did not help bring down crime at all. It didn't help bring down crime at all. If you want to bring down crime, you deal with the issues that cause crime. Exactly. Putting someone in jail is after a crime has happened. So this guy has broken up more black families than any other person in Congress, but he wants to give $450,000 to hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants for breaking into our country illegally. So this country has no issues with reparations. They only have an issue with it for the people who built the nation. So I am running because look at what's going on in Ukraine right now. We've already sent billions of dollars to Ukrainians. If you include the military equipment we've sent to them, trillions of dollars. They have not been under attack by Russia for even 6 months yet, and we are just sending money to them left and right. Ukrainians aren't Americans. Ukrainians ain't built this nation. If America gets attacked tomorrow, those Ukrainians not going to fly over here and help us out, but we're sending money to them. Black Americans are 15 to 20% of this country's population. That's conservatively, but we are over 55% of the homeless, okay? Black women are 5 times more likely to die giving birth to a child than poor women in countries like Mexico and the Philippines. Black children commit suicide more than white children. Black people have never historically committed more suicide than white people. But for the first time in history, black kids between the ages of 5 to 12 are more likely to kill themselves than white children. Black Americans right now, we own less homes now than we did during the days of Jim Crow, when it was legal to discriminate against us. In my area, I don't know, are y'all in Charleston?
Yeah, we're in Somerville. Okay. We're in the low country area. Yeah.
Okay, well, Somerville. Okay, so in our area, then everyone here knows about, and people who are from here, they definitely know about the system called heirs property, which is where you inherit property, but you don't have a will. So everyone has to share their property. What used to happen, and still does, is either a family member who didn't know the family, or a family member who wanted money, or sometimes a family member who was threatened with violence. They will share their they will sell their share of the property. Because of that, a racist judge will then say that there were 10 people living on 60 acres of property. They will say $10,000. Each of them get $1,000, get off the property, and the property could be worth $500,000. Black Americans have lost 15 million acres of property. Of the 16 million our great-grandparents were able to get and keep. The #1 cause of lynching was not white women lying about somebody wanting them. It was about land theft. We've lost 15 million acres, and with all that land, we've lost the trillions and trillions of dollars that land was worth. We only own 1 million acres of property in a country we built. Underneath Joe Biden, unemployment for all these other groups has gone down, except for Black Americans. Black American men's unemployment has actually surged. So we are the most landless, we are the most homeless, we are the most unemployed, we have the shortest lives, we have the worst schools, we have the worst infrastructure. In Denmark, South Carolina, right there in Bamberg County, they don't even have clean water. Haven't had clean water for 10 years because they were putting a chemical in their water for 10 years unapproved. The people are being told the water is clean, but the people there don't believe it. North Charleston has the most toxic water in the country. Okay?
So quick
North Charleston.
question on that. I heard you say that earlier. where's that stat? Because I mean, I'm not doubting it, but people want to know when they want to back you. They want to know where's that stat? Like, where can they look for that info at?
Google North Charleston worst water quality water in America.
Even worse than Flint, Michigan.
It has the highest level of toxicity.
Oh, toxicity.
Flint, Michigan Flint, Michigan's issue
Pollution.
was with them using some poor filters that allow some contaminant to get through. But most toxic water, highest eviction rate as well is in North Charleston too. And of course, most of those people are black.
Another question. I mean to interrupt you one more time, but so do you think where that comes from? Do you know where that comes from? Do you have an idea or a thought?
Yes. So in North Charleston, as people who have lived there, lived in this area know, they used to have a lot of plants. And they used to have those cement plants, and of course they have the ports. Well, some of their plants used to use this chemical, ethylene oxide. 2 of those plants exploded. One happened when I was, I think, 6 or 5 years old, because we even got an advisory alert in my area. Then there was another explosion at that same plant in 2001. And they believe that ethylene oxide seeped into the soil there and poisoned the water. Not just that. The diesel fuel trucks going to and from the ports in North Charleston, they've also believe have contributed to the high level of toxicity in its water, to the point that one study, and I can share all these articles with y'all so people can, because one thing about us, we have to be educated about what's going on in our communities. A lot of times we just don't know. They did one study, the rate of asthma increased 5 times for white children. For black children, though, it increased 20 times. The rate of cancer in North Charleston in 1 year was 44% more than what people were expecting it to be. Now, they can't necessarily link it to those explosions and to the ports, but police people believe that's exactly where it comes from. So my point is this. All of these things happening with us, who's speaking up for us? When Asian Americans were going through their little hate crime with COVID-19, they did that hate crime bail in 3 weeks, and they got Asians. Illegal immigrants coming to this country, they're not even supposed to be here, and you have people like our Congressman Clyburn who wants them to get citizenship. Not just that, he wants them to get help with housing. We're the most homeless. He wants them to get help with jobs. We're the most unemployed. He wants them to get help with health care. We're the ones who have the lack of health care, and we're the ones who have the least of health insurance. We are also the people who are most likely to have malpractice. Native Americans have gotten more funding underneath this administration in history. Who's speaking up for us? We're helping Ukrainians. Who's speaking up for us? So my platform, the main thing on my platform is one thing called a better deal for Black America. And that's my reparations plan. Now, y'all being in Charleston, me being just not even an hour away, we should know that the 40 acres in the mule that everyone likes to talk about, that came from us. That came from here. General Sherman met with the professors in Savannah, Georgia, and they came up with something called Special Field Order 15. Abraham Lincoln signed it into law. That was supposed to be a reparations deal for Black Americans. We were supposed to get all of these former rice plantations. We were supposed to get that land. We would have had wealth. We would have had our own communities. All of Charleston, all the Sea Islands, 30 miles inland, all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, Sea Islands, 30 miles inland. That's supposed to be our territory, our land. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and it never happened. Instead, what this country did was they didn't pay us a dime. We built Black Wall Streets, over 50 of them. They burnt them to the ground. They either flooded them or they even stole the land and took over the cities. All of that wealth gone. Jim Crow, redlining. They imported drugs in our community, mass incarceration. All of those things happened to us, and this government did nothing to protect us. A lot of times we as Black people like to talk about all the issues that we caused. We ain't caused none of this stuff. Here's what was being done with white Americans at the time. White Americans were given hundreds of millions of acres of property underneath a deal called the Homestead Act. 10% of America was given to white Americans. Right. Today, 48 million white American families can trace their wealth to that land being given by Abraham Lincoln via the Homestead Act. We got none of that. World War II. I already mentioned this. When my great-grandfather came back home, the GI Bill was a law that gave veterans returning from World War II money to buy a home, to go to school, health care, pension, open businesses. Black soldiers, like my great-grandfather, didn't get any of it. So when my grandmother, his daughter, was born, he had nothing for her to inherit. This country owes us. Just because you haven't paid us yet doesn't mean we're going to forget the debt. So my plan is for us to get direct monetary payments. They've done that for Japanese Americans. They can do it for us. My plan is to bring back the Freedmen's Bureau. A Freedmen's Bureau was a department of the government that was supposed to make sure we was well fed, protected, housed, had good jobs, had good health care. I'm going to bring back that department of the government. Native Americans have the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We need to have the Freedmen's Bureau. I plan to incentivize us returning to our land in the American South, getting us compensated for our land, and also having us return to black farming. A lot of us were ran off of our farms because the United States Department of Agriculture discriminated against us, and nothing was ever done about it. I plan to be the person to do something about it. So that right there is my reparations platform. It would have happened a long time ago had we had true leaders in Congress standing up and demanding it be done a long time ago.
Right. So I have a couple of questions for you. A couple of people text me. I have a couple of people that asked a couple of questions, and some questions personally that I wanted to ask you. One, I'm kind of 3-4 question in this one, so it's real quick. You can answer this real quick. What college did you go to? What did you major in? And what are you teaching now?
I went to Fort Hays University. That's a college in Kansas. I did all my courses online because I was working full time when I was going to college, and I wanted to do elementary education. That's what I took up. But the University of South Carolina only offered early education, which was pre-K to third, and I wanted to do upper elementary. And I am a teacher at Royal Live Oaks Academy. That's a charter school here in Hardyville, South Carolina.
Okay, good stuff.
Exactly, and one of the Freedmen's banks is still standing in the tree.
Exactly. Another a question that was posed, and I kind of wanted to know too. I know you're running on the platform, and that's probably not just your sole platform of reparations, but you know, you're a person of color. You're a black man. I'm a black man. My wife is a black woman, and a lot of people our color want to know, like, what is your stance and what is your plans on gun violence, black on black crime, where, you know, what you stand on that, and what are your plans as it relates to rectifying or making your niche to making it better?
So let me be real quick.
Cool.
Everything with me begins with reparations, because the fact of the matter is the poorer the community and the longer the community's been poor, the higher the level of gun violence will be. So I want us all to start realizing and connecting all of our current issues to the fact that we were never paid the wealth we were supposed to inherit. That's what I want to say. But now, to answer the question more directly, if you want to fight against gun violence, you have to fight against poverty. So I'm going to go back to reparations, but I'm going to go beyond that.
That's true.
One of the issues that we treat in the black community is we don't deal with a lot of mental and emotional problems. Healthcare in our communities, we don't have enough hospitals for us. But when we think of healthcare, we think of physical health. There's mental and emotional health too that needs to be addressed. There was a study done with grandchildren of the Holocaust survivors who had not gone through the Holocaust. Those kids had higher levels of anxiety and depression than Jewish people whose grandparents had never gone through the Holocaust. Now, if the Holocaust can cause that, and that lasted for 14 years, how much more are we inheriting? How much trauma are we born with, inheriting over 500 years of a Holocaust that we've been going through? So the first thing I plan to do is to make healthcare available to everyone, and not just physical health, but mental and emotional health as well. Another thing I plan to do, I've done research, and people can look this up. One thing that's been shown to correlate with high levels of gun violence, believe it or not, are these three things: abandoned buildings. The more abandoned buildings you have in an area, the more likely you are to have crime. We should be incentivizing Black people to get in those buildings and start businesses. We should be turning these abandoned hotels into quality, affordable homes for people, okay? That's one thing. Get rid of abandoned buildings and show investment in the community. Poor street lighting. That's another thing that's been shown to correlate with violent crime. Also, lack of open public green spaces. The more parks you have, the more you're able to engender a feeling of community. Another thing we need to have is free quality child supervision. A lot of times, violence is being done by young people who are usually unsupervised and have a lot of free time on their hands. We have quality government-provided childcare. Secondly, we have to provide a living wage. Because if we don't have a living wage, you're going to have people spending all their time at work, still not able to pay their bills, and their level of frustration is going to be sky high to the point where if they get into conflict with someone, they're going to snap just like that. A lot of times when we see violent crime in our community, it is just because we are going through so much stress as a people. We're just ready to snap on the first person who does us wrong. And unfortunately, that person is usually going to be someone that looks like us. Now, I do want to push back against something real quick. Black on black crime does not exist.
Exactly.
It does not.
Exactly.
It does not exist at all. There's white on white crime, but no one calls it that. There's yellow on yellow crime. No one calls it that. There's Native American crime. No one calls it that. I get a little, and I'm not coming after you, I'm just saying, I get a little bothered when I hear people in the news talk about black on black crime.
Right.
If you want to talk about black,
Oh, I get it. Me too, bro.
if you want to talk about black on black crime, then let's talk about some black on black policies. Let's talk about black on black reparations. They don't like to say black. Talk about that.
But they want to say black on black crime. This is my pet peeve, is they want to talk about black on black crime when a police kills a Black person. What does that have to do with anything? That's like comparing apples to a planet.
Exactly. So my thing is this. Oh, sorry.
It doesn't make any sense to me. And sometimes it's our own people.
It is our own people. We always adopt these talking points that are live. Here's the truth about crime. I'm glad we're having this conversation. One, black, less, I want people to listen to this. FBI data, less than 1% of the black population is likely to commit a violent crime any given year. Less than 1%. That is FBI data. Do the math like I did mine and prove me wrong. You won't be able to. I done got into it with our people, white people, blue people. None of them been able to prove me wrong. Two, okay, black men, 62% of the people who are found innocent of a crime they committed are black men. So if anything, all these black men we've seen going to jail, they are more likely to be innocent but wrongly convicted than a white person.
Right.
If you add black women, it's 70%. 70% of the people who are wrongly convicted of a crime are black. And only because of later on DNA evidence proves them innocent. How many times do we see black people getting released from prison after being there for decades for a crime they didn't do? That happens to us. So a lot of times they want to put a black face on a crime when we can't even be sure a black person did it. We get the worst representation. Usually when we get arrested, we get a public defender because we can't afford good representation, and a public defender might mean well, but they're so overwhelmed with their cases that usually a person who's innocent might get thrown in jail. Now, that being said, I do believe it doesn't matter. My uncle was gunned down in his driveway. My brother was shot when he was a teenager. So I've had a lot of experience, unfortunately, with gun violence. If you are a person and your loved one's been killed, it doesn't matter if that's only that murder that's going to happen that year. It still hurts you. So obviously, gun violence is still a serious issue. And yes, black Americans do experience higher levels of it, but we also experience higher levels of poverty too. So my thing is, when people want to talk about black on black crimes, I want those same people to talk about some black on black policies. Because what black people have been asking for generations are things like reparations. We've been asking for good schools. We've been demanding quality housing, good paying jobs. What about those black on black policies? I am actually running on that. What we should be doing is asking the person in office right now, James Clyburn, why he's been there for 30 years and he has not done some of the things I'm proposing to do.
So you're running for Congress, and that's, it's understood that, you have to face tough issues, tough questions. And so I'm probably that guy that's probably designated to be the guy to ask you the tough questions. So I was tasked to ask you, how do you feel about homosexuality in schools? This is a topic that someone...
I don't want homosexuality in school. I don't want heterosexuality in school. I've been a teacher for 17 years. My mother used to tell me growing up, if you wanted a boyfriend or girlfriend, you should go to the library, a bookcase, and say, here, have as many boyfriend girlfriends as you want. When my kids, and I've taught elementary, I've taught middle, I've taught high. Whenever any of my kids came in with their boyfriend, girlfriend stuff, I will always make it very, very clear to them. The only boyfriend, girlfriend you have is right here. And I will pull out books. How many boyfriend, girlfriends you want? The classroom is not the place for a teacher to be pushing any type of sexual orientation agenda. I believe that also is in regards to religion. I should not be pushing a religious agenda on my students. I should not be pushing my political views on my students. So I am against heterosexuality, but I'm definitely against this trans stuff being taught in books and things like that. That should be up to the parents. On that matter, I also believe that even if a parent, teaches that, which is fine, if they're right, I believe that a child should not be able to make a decision. This is going more into the trans matter. A child should not be able to make that decision at least until they're 18 years old. To me, we're giving kids way too much authority nowadays. You're a child. I don't have any kids, but I have taught elementary, middle, and high. If I let my students decide to do things they wanted to do, they will be doing some crazy stuff. I've taught 18-year-olds, okay? How am I going to let them decide what sex or gender they want to be? I'm not going to let you decide you want to be a girl today and you're a boy, or you want to be a boy today and you're a girl. You're not old enough to be making those decisions. Right. I need you to focus on being a child. That's my point on it.
Because as a kid, I wanted to be a doctor, a mermaid, and a ballerina.
I wanted to be a Power Ranger.
Yeah, it's a thing. Nobody threw me in the water to test that theory to see if I was a mermaid, But
Hey,
I have a couple of
questions. My wife has a couple of questions. One thing I want to tell you, I like you. I really do. I like you. I mean, I just like your charisma. I like everything about you. And we want to get to, after she asks a question, I want to make sure that people know how they can support you. Like, I don't know how, if it's within your campaign or how to get contributions, whatever. We'll definitely support you. But I just want you to make sure before we end, I want you to make sure that we put that out there, how people can support you, follow you. We got a lot of events coming up. I definitely want to rock with you on some stuff that I got going on too. But my wife has some questions that people are asking. They want to ask of you. But I'm impressed.
Okay, this is a question. Have you thought about the process for preparing the Black community for financial wealth or the reparations that you are fighting for? As I think about your platform, I also think about the financial instability and just bad choices that we see many in the Black community make. What do you intend to do to help those that have no financial sense of education to make good decisions and investments should your crusade come to fruition?
So, one, it is going to happen. Our parents, our ancestors were told, y'all ain't never going to be free. We're in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. South Carolina was the state that had the most slave-holding families. Of course, South Carolina was the state that came up with black codes that became Jim Crow and all that other stuff we went through. So if you are in South Carolina and you're saying just in case it happens or maybe, then you are insulting our ancestors. They were told they were never going to be free. We are free today. Are we perfect? Of course not. The civil rights movement happened. Jim Crow and redlining have fallen. We're still going through the pain, those things that's called, but on paper, they don't exist. So I'm going to get that spirit of my ancestors. I'm not going to say if it comes to fruition, it will come to fruition. Just a matter of when it's going to be soon. Now, to answer that question, I mean, We should be preparing ourselves. We should always be trying to make good financial decisions, always. But am I going to make that a contingency upon our reparations? Like, okay, first let me get y'all financially ready, and then you get reparations? No. No one said to the Japanese Americans, hey, let's take some financial wisdom courses, then we give you money. No. No one said to the Holocaust survivors, oh, let me make sure you're good with money first, then I'm going to pay you. No. No one said to Native Americans, let me make sure you're good with money, then I want to pay you. No. So damn well ain't no one going to say to my people, oh, you're good with money, so I'm not going to give you the money. Now, I want to say something too real quick. What? I need to kill this myth that, see, we believe the worst things about ourselves. I need to kill this myth that some of us believe that we're bad with money. Actually, show me any other group that was going through chattel slavery, that was being lynched, chopped alive, burnt alive, drowned, that had no protection in the country, didn't know how to read and write, didn't have a penny in their pocket. There was one story I read in South Carolina. Our people were so poor after slavery ended that they were eating rotten food off of dead soldiers' bodies, okay? Yet, we built not just that Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, we built Black Wall Streets in North Carolina, Durham, and Wilmington. Columbia, South Carolina had a Black Wall Street, okay? Hamburg, South Carolina, which no longer exists, but is right there by Aiken and Augusta, was a Black Wall Street, okay? Black Wall Streets were in Mississippi, Virginia, Florida. We did that coming off the plantation. So we are great with money. Had those Black Wall Streets been allowed to thrive, New York City would look like a one-stoplight town. Show me any other group that's been able to do that with having no money at all, building Wall Streets. Not just that. Right now, Black Americans only got 1% of the PPP loans. Someone in the comments say, oh yeah, but a lot of those people are lying by having owning businesses. Actually, most of the people going to jail for PPP fraud are white people. So don't come to us with that. Black Americans only got 1% of PPP loans. Yet, we've started more businesses than any other group, but we got the least amount of money. Studies have shown Black Americans save more than white Americans save. We actually are the group that saves the most. Okay, when they done these experiments where they gave Black people money, this like just extra money, and they were seeing how people were spending, Black families were the most likely of all families to spend money on things like food and clothing and to pay bills. So this myth that Black people overall make poor choices with money is just that, a myth. But let me tell you this. Even if I was going to get my reparations and I was going to spend it on pit bulls and a Cadillac, that's my answer. I can spend my money.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Pit bull puppies and Cadillacs. I know that's right.
Another question, right?
Pit bulls and Cadillacs. That's not right.
The only
white people, you know what's funny? No one says anything to these white billionaires and trillionaires. How many times has the American economy crashed because the banks did stupid stuff? The housing industry did dumb stuff. The auto industry did dumb stuff. It's not Black people in charge of the industry. Those are white people, really, really rich white people. How many times has the government come along and say, we're going to bail them out? We're going to bail them out. When white people are bad with money, the government comes and saves them. When Black people are bad with money, we get our own people saying, well, that's what you get. No, don't tell me that's what you get. No one pocket watches any other group. The only group people want to pocket watch are the people who are owed the most money.
Yep,
I agree.
How's that happening?
So another question, someone said the only thing missing from Marcel's platform is a prison reform agenda for the descendants of slavery.
So here's my thing. First of all, I feel like if you are, we have to address the reason why people end up in prison. Let's be very honest. I already said it at the beginning. A lot of Black people are wrongly in prison, okay? How every day you turn around, it's a Black person, Black woman too, but usually a Black man who is being released from prison after spending decades of their life for a crime they did not commit. It's always a Black man. So let's talk about the fact that we have a lot of, and before, I'm not saying all, I'm sure there are plenty of good police officers, good judges, and good lawyers. But the problem
right. Where they at?
If you spit in my drink, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to drink the inside you spit on. The whole drink is poisonous,
right.
Okay? We have to have our own judicial system. Native Americans have their own tribal systems. They deal with their own issues. Of course, they still have the whole federal law. My plan is when we get back to our communities here in the South, my plan is for us to have our own police force, our own judicial system. My plan also calls for, if anybody looks on my website, I say I'm going to open cold cases of black people that were probably killed by anti-black bigots. But a part of that, too, is also reviewing the cases of black people that are in prison. I am for Clyburn should be pushing this guy who we call president, who worked with Ku Klux Klan members. That's all the story. Clyburn should be pushing this guy we call president, should be pushing him to do amnesty right now. Every black person in prison right now for non-violent offenses, just for selling drugs that now white Americans are getting rich off of, or white Americans use, and they get programs to help them. They should be released right now as we speak. So I understand that people want me to speak more about prison reform. The reason I kind of didn't put anything in there about that, because when people talk to black Americans, the only thing they ever want to talk about is prison reform. The truth of the matter is, I have my oldest brother's in prison, unfortunately, and I have plenty of loved ones in prison. I do think about that. But I got to think about also the majority of us who are in prison and will never be. Because the only time they want to talk about, when they come to black, they want to talk about, prison reform, police brutality, as if those are the only two issues we have. No, pay us our reparations too. Don't forget that. And we need to start, whenever these politicians come around us, we need to start saying, where's the check? Where's the check? Where's the reparations? Make that our big thing.
Right. I agree. And I kind of, I feel like if they gave us our reparations, then a lot of it really would solve a lot of problems. A lot of brothers wouldn't. I think a lot of brothers wouldn't really be in prison. A lot of brothers are in prison because trying to make money, trying to feed their families, and then we're put, like you said, like Biden. Oh man, Biden is one of the sneakiest dudes available, bro. Like, and I'm glad you touched on that, because Biden was part of the same scheme that put brothers locked up. And he's the same scheme that got brothers still locked up. It's like that 3 strikes. Like, Biden was part of all that. And he
did that all. He did crack cocaine. He did rock cocaine, powder cocaine disparity. Powder cocaine was being used by white Americans. It was almost decriminalized. They would get help, programs, get them jobs and houses, like we see them doing right now for this opioid crisis that is mainly impacting white Americans. They get help.
Meanwhile, black people on heroin for years. Black people on heroin for years.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't an opioid crisis then.
Right, exactly. When we were going through crack cocaine, rock cocaine, they were throwing out people in prison. And the thing that bothered me so much, drugs were forced in our communities. They brought drugs to our communities, okay? Heroin, all of those things were brought to our communities. And the people who brought them never saw a day in jail, called Ronald Reagan. But the people who were depressed and going through a struggle and thought and used drugs as a way of escape, they were thrown in prison. It destroyed our community. That's when you also started seeing the violent crime rate explode in the 70s, when drugs really came and hit on the scene really hard. And there's also other things with Biden. I mean, the guy worked to keep black kids out of schools. He said he didn't want his schools to look like a racial jungle. He was good friends with Strom Thurmond, South Carolina Strom Thurmond, who was a notorious anti-black bigot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how Clyburn endorsed that guy, well, I'm not surprised, but we should have been done with him right there.
So, what are your thoughts on gun reform? As you see, there's an increase on mass shootings, whether it's in schools, whether it's in grocery stores, wherever it is. But what is your thought? What are your thoughts on gun reform? Or should we have gun reform, or should it be,
So people always talk about gun control. What we need to do is control guns. And that means, first of all, a black person in America, a descendant of American slaves, we should all be well armed, okay? Because my thing is this, don't let them know that if you shoot at us, we're going to be shooting back. You shoot one bullet, we're going to shoot back 20. I'm not nonviolent. I need to make that very clear, okay? So I'm not a nonviolent person. I'm not a violent person, but I'm not nonviolent. I believe in violence, violence thrown towards me. So I'm not nonviolent. We need, all of us as black people, Donald Martin Luther King Jr. is dead. He believed in nonviolent resistance, and they killed him anyway. So what we look like here, being nonviolent, I will be nonviolent. Right. I'll be nonviolent when America goes first. Only after that, until then, I'm not nonviolent. I'm never gonna be nonviolent. So that's the way it is. However, I will say I believe we should, I believe in trying to handle things peacefully, but when we see we're under attack, and we have been for centuries, black people will be the most foolish people if we gave up our firearms. The reason they've only done things like gun control was to keep guns from us. We need them. Now, I believe in keeping guns out of the hands of people who are obviously violent people. The problem is not so much the guns, it's the people we let have the guns. In several states right now, you can have an awful violent record and be able to buy a gun. Now, for black Americans who are usually arrested for things they did not do, or usually are arrested for crimes that were minimal, if you are a felon, but you have done, your crimes have been nonviolent, I don't believe you should be prohibited from owning a gun. If it's a violent record, yes, but if it's a nonviolent crime, you should not be prohibited from owning a gun. I also believe in safe gun technology, and I believe that should be provided free of charge. The same way we got to use our fingerprints to get into our cell phone, we should have, I believe in fingerprints being used to access guns. And why? Because it's been shown when other people get a hold of your gun, they're more likely to use it to harm you or to use it to harm someone else, which will fall back on you. To that point, too, and look, when it comes to guns, both sides usually tend to be unhappy with me, but it is what it is. I believe that there should be a national registry, and if a gun is registered to you, you should be responsible for whose hand that gun gets into. So if you have a 17-year-old and they get your AK-47 and they kill 65 people, if that gun is yours as their parent, you should be responsible for that too, because you should make sure your gun is safely secure. Now, here's the main thing. It would be foolish for us to put all these resources into trying to take away automatic rifles, or what they call assault weapons. It's over 400 million guns in the country, and a large portion are assault rifles. It would look, we can't catch people now who this scumbag that killed our people there in Buffalo. He wrote about it. He planned it online. How they missed him, that's a little suspicious to me, but we already know the game around here. But my thing is this: if they fall through the cracks already, imagine us trying to put all this manpower into taking guns from people. We're really going to miss the terrorists amongst us then. So we should put the focus more on the terrorists. So what I propose us doing is we have a screening mechanism in place for social media, especially where if someone is already planning, you can catch people having communication about planning attacks, because they usually always discuss it. And if we flag it, then we have to go to those people. We can stop them before they commit a heinous act. That's what needs to be done. Instead of trying to see who has an assault rifle, we need to be trying to hear who's planning an attack on people. Now, another thing I would say with mass shootings, they're awful. In America, it's more of them than any other nation in the world. But we need to remember something. Most acts of gun violence are suicides, over almost 60%. So there is a mental health aspect to this too. Another thing is a lot of gun violence is usually conflict between a person. Like people get into an argument with their brother. Usually acts like that cause more gun violence than anything else. So I believe that with these gun license classes, we need to have some interpersonal conflict resolution. So a lot of people just don't know how to solve conflict without resorting to violence. And that is what I see is a bigger problem. I see it with my students. I see it with my students' parents. I see it when I'm out about. People just have poor conflict resolution skills. And I believe if you have a gun, that should be the last resort. A gun shouldn't even cross your mind if you're just having a conflict with someone, a disagreement. But what I see too often, when a gun is present, people often think, let me just grab my gun. That should not be the way to solve a problem that is not a life and death problem. So it needs to be more, it needs to be a conversation beyond just take assault rifles off the streets. Because we're still going to have 9mm and magnums that can still do a whole lot of damage.
Right. Yeah.
No, most people agree with you. Yeah, Gail, we stay packing over there. Someone asked, how should reparations be dispensed?
It will be dispensed by the Freedmen's Bureau. The same way the Veteran Affairs they deal with all things pertaining to veterans. The Freedmen's Bureau, which used to exist, South Carolina had the first Freedmen's Bureau in the country, was a department of the government that dealt with all of our needs. They will deal with our needs. Direct monetary payment, we won't get a lump sum because no one knows how many black people are in America, but the number has gone between 50 to 80 million. No one knows the census always undercounts us. And a lot of black people don't fill out the census too because, of course, we don't trust the government and for good reason. But if there's 50 million of us, and let's say 45 million of us are descendants of American slaves, we are the people that this country owes to still owe the 40 acres of mule to. You can't give all of us almost $3 million at the same time because it would crash the economy because there would be massive inflation. So my point is there's something called, for people who don't know, treasury bonds. This is yellow. They're called yellow dollars. They're like this color. And what happens is when America gets debt, that actually helps America make money. They sell their debt to the people. So what America's going to do is buy the debt that they owe our people, and they're going to pay us interest every single month. So as long as we have those yellow dollars, it's like an IOU. They pay us the interest on those yellow dollars. So we will always have money coming in for the rest of our lives. Our descendants will too. This country will always owe us that debt. As far as land goes, the Freedmen's Bureau planning on doing a second Homestead Act for Black Americans. They're going to have land, rural land mainly, but of course our communities all throughout the country incentivize us to go back to these rural lands and help us move back so we can have our communities again. When I grew up, it was with my cousins, my great-grandparents, great-grandmother, grandmother, aunts, mothers, siblings around. That's how Black communities used to be. Now our communities are all scattered and broken up. We live in here, we live in there. We need to go back to living amongst each other. We're going to have land grants to do that. They're going to get us back to farming. And last but not least, we're going to be tax exempt. So that way, when we start businesses and things like that, that money all goes in our pocket. Tax exempt at the federal level.
That's a good answer. Carla Johnson wants to know, what changes do you see in the education system?
Well, y'all know here in South Carolina, we have what's called the Corridor of Shame, which refers to the network of rural counties, my county, Jasper County being one of them, Hampton County, Allendale County, Colleton County, I can name all of them, where the majority Black or largely Black and rural, but the level of poverty among the Black population is high. Like over 80% of the Black population in Allendale County lives in poverty. In Jasper County, over 80%. The average poverty rate for the United States of America, y'all, is 11%. In Allendale County, 68% poverty rate. Okay? And that's overall. So this is under Clyburn's watch. He's had us underneath his rule for 30 years. And we are the 6th poorest district in the United States of America out of 435. So, also though, in these counties, the academic rate of school failure is high too. In some schools, 90% of the Black boys are not reading and doing math on grade level. Not because they're not smart, but because of all the issues they go through before they get to school and then what they go through once they get to school. So my plan is to address the reason why these issues occur. And one of the reasons why you have these issues in school is because of inadequate funding. Schools in America are funded by property taxes. So I'm in Ridgeland, right? If you live in Bluffton, Bluffton is the richest town in South Carolina, the property taxes are going up, your revenue is going to be this high. If you come over to Richland, a poor town, it's going to be this low. So one school gets to have more resources than the other. That's not the way it should be. A person shouldn't be punished just because of where they live. You should be able to have access to an adequate quality education no matter where you stay. So my plan is to write legislation where every state is going to have an amount that is needed for the kid to get a quality education. Of course, not all school districts will be able to afford it. So when a school district puts towards the amount that they can with property taxes, the federal government will then pull the remaining balance. They will send that money straight to the school board, not to the Department of Education where they can play politics with it, but straight to the school board. And the school board then can pay teachers more, can pay bus drivers more, paraprofessionals more, cafeteria employees, janitors, receptionists. They can hire more child psychiatrists to deal with the mental and emotional issues our kids have. They can hire more guidance counselors. They'll be able to have social service employees working straight for the schools who can help these families, not take kids from these families, but support families. They'll be able to hire Black teachers. But my plan ultimately is also for us to be a protected class, and we can bring back our all Black schools again. Because I want us, I say it, segregation was awful, but there's nothing wrong with separation. I am for us having our own Black communities, our own Black businesses, and our own Black schools. I know some of us, and that doesn't mean you can't have white friends to go to, we'll go to movie with your white friend, go ahead. But I'm a person, I like being around my people. So yeah, I can consider go and eat with a white person if I want to, but at the end of the day, I want to go back to my Black community, my Black businesses, schools.
So my question to you, and bruh, trust me, I'm probably as pro-Black as you can get. And you're running for Congress and you're in South Carolina, like with that, I don't want to say mentality, but with that thought process, like, you got to get some white people. You have to get some white people on board. How do you plan on getting them on board? Like, just your conversation alone, like Black people are going to follow you because, you're speaking what we want. Well, you're right. I get it. Not all.
Some of them, yeah.
Because you're gonna have those Uncle Tom, the
ones Harriet Tubman would have shot.
Yeah, the coonery is gonna happen.
Exactly. Those ones Harriet Tubman would have said.
Yeah, trust me, I'm definitely with you. I am not nonviolent. We got ammo around here, ammo. Like, but we don't. We want to be peaceful with everybody, but it is what it is.
My favorite quote by Malcolm X. I always misquote it, but
That's right.
You know the quote. But if a man be courteous, follow the law. But if a man puts his hands on you, send him to the cemetery.
Cemetery. So, but how do you
exactly?
I plans on getting, because white people like to think on those lines, because it's gonna be difficult. You know what I mean? It's gonna be an uphill climb. I'm not saying it can't happen, and I don't want to. I'm not the type of dude to put a bad spoke in your wheel. I'm just saying I just want to ask you because I'm with you. But I really am.
So I've spoken to tens of thousands of white people in South Carolina, and most white people in South Carolina are Republican, conservatives. I tell them, don't look at me as a Republican, don't look at me as a Democrat. First and foremost, I'm Black. That's what I am. A Democrat, that don't mean nothing to me. I tell them it's about policy. That's our problem right there. We vote for Democrats. No, vote for policy. If a Republican has better policies, vote for him or her. If a Democrat has better policies, vote for him or her. So that's the first thing I tell white people. Here's several things. One, people respect people who are authentic. I say I'm like this in front of white people and in front of Black people. And people tend to respect it even if they don't agree with you. Because people tend to feel like, okay, I may not like this guy's policy, but if he's representing me, I know he ain't going to lie to me because he's saying things that he know I don't like and he's standing on it. But here's what I say to them. One, reparations. They like to ask me, white people, they like to ask me, well, don't you think reparations are going to bankrupt the nation? I tell them, no, reparations are going to save the nation. Reparations will enrich the nation. Like Americans, we have less wealth than every other group. Even illegal immigrants have more wealth than us. We are at $24,000 in wealth. Just for comparison, the average white family is at $200,000 in wealth. Not income, but wealth. Wealth is always better than income. So when you lose that income, wealth will still keep you afloat. And yet, we spend over $3 trillion in the American economy. So the more money we get, we are Americans. This is our country. It's all going to go back into the economy. I also tell white people, they did a study last year. City Financial. We all probably heard of Citibank, Citigroup. One of the largest financial service providers in the world. So large that when people thought they were going to crash, Obama, remember that too big to fail thing they used to say? They were one of those too big to fail type things. They did a study last year. America has lost $16 trillion because of anti-Black racism. Now, let me tell you, the U.S. right now is only worth $19.2 trillion, and this is the richest we've ever been. So America, had they paid reparations in the year 2000, would be twice as rich. Imagine if you go back to 1990, 1980, 1970, 1960. So by reparations will help enrich the nation, save the nation. That's what I tell them. Then now there are some white people who some of them would agree with me. They'll say, well, you know what? I think reparations is a bad idea, but you know what? They spend all these money on illegal immigrants and sending all this aid to Ukrainians. They can definitely do things for Black Americans who vote for them. They say about the Democrats. Another thing I would say to white Americans, I'll ask them, what do you think of when you think of reparations? And they always say to me, well, you want me to pay for something I didn't do. Wrong. First of all, I don't want nothing from you. Okay? Second of all, reparations does not come from the American taxpayer. If it did, that means if you are a descendant of American slave, as am I, we would be paying for something which we were a victim of. That would make no sense. That reparations has always come from the federal government. It does not come from taxpayers. State governments run off the taxes. The federal government creates the money that we use to pay the taxes. When they want to bail out the auto industry, the federal government creates the money. When they want to bail out the bacon industry, the airline industry, the hospitality industry, the cruise industry, when they were fighting that war in Afghanistan and Iraq, that was $20 million or $20 billion a month for 20 years, when they were researching the vaccines and making the vaccines and sending the vaccines out, when they increased unemployment from $300 to $600, when they sent out these PPP loans, when they want to bail out corporations, no one ever asks, where is this money going to come from? It doesn't come from taxes. The federal government can't afford it, and they will do it. So when I tell them that, and they look it up because they try to prove me wrong, and they see that I'm right, they didn't start to come around. But the main thing is, with white people that I tell them to, white Republicans at least, they like the fact that I am completely against illegal immigration. I am not for amnesty. Yes, I am for deportation. No, I don't feel bad about it. Yes, I have a heart, but no, my heart will not stop me from, if you're in this country legally, you need to go. First of all, a lot of these illegal immigrants are taking jobs that Black Americans, especially Black American men, used to do. 40% of people working construction jobs, painting jobs, roofing jobs, heating and air, flooring, carpentry. Those were all jobs that when I was growing up, my young men in my family used to do, older Black men used to do. Now they can't do those jobs because these illegal immigrants come, they get paid less to do it, but then they will bring people over from another country, not pay them, pretty much making them a slave, have a larger crew that can get the job done quicker, but paying them nothing, and people then will hire them. This is actually a fact. They also like the fact that I am for Second Amendment. I am definitely for us having guns. I'm not for everyone having them. If you are violent or you're a person who has shown that you have a propensity for terrorism, no, you shouldn't have a gun. But other than that, they like that. They also like the fact that I am not a fan of abortion. So because of that, some of them realize that a Republican, is probably not going to win in our area, because our area is like 73% Democrat. So they'll say, well, you know what? If I need to vote for someone, I might as well vote for someone who agrees more with me and who may win than Clyburn. So that's usually how I get them to come around. But at the end of the day, I tell them, I ain't backing down for reparations. It ain't going to happen. So, they can take it or leave it.
I like that.
I show them how reparations is going to help them. I show them how everything I do is going to help them. But I always let them know I'm going to be that reparations guy. Just understand that. So you don't be surprised.
I got a personal question. So we have a 5-year-old who's going to be 6 on Father's Day, which is Juneteenth. And I heard that you said that you were a teacher at a charter school. So what are your thoughts on charter schools versus public schools?
I believe that, usually people like to say charter schools are racist because the history of charter schools, like the history of everything in the United States of America, was originally anti-Blackness. But I believe that charter schools can be a force for good. Now, what we have happening a lot of times are a lot of these white liberal or white charter school founders, they come to these poor Black areas, they start the school, and they don't do it because they care about the kids. They do it because they just see it as a business opportunity. They want to get filthy rich, so they don't care if our kids do well. And usually, if you get teachers who push the kids to do well, they go after those teachers because they want our kids to fail so we can feel like we need them. So that does happen. Charter schools can definitely, they definitely need to have regulations. But Black Americans, we should support charter schools more than any other group. We should support it, and here's why. That's the best way for us to start our own schools again. Get back our own Black schools, our own Black teachers, our own community schools. I also believe you can support a charter school by also still support the local school in the district. It's possible to do both. We should not have this attitude when it comes to schools of this, well, I'm either going to help you out or I'm going to help them out. You can do both. We can have it where our local district non-charter school can get more resources that they need, but also set aside money for our people, specifically people who have been denied education for centuries and went through hell to try to get it, where we should have the ability to say, I want to apply to start a charter school in my community, not some rich person who don't know our community coming out of nowhere starting a school. We should have the ability to start schools for our people, hire our people to teach our children, have control over our curriculum. So I support charter schools because they allowed that option. And when I get in Congress, I'm going to fight for that option to be done.
Another question: Are you would you consider yourself pro-Black?
Definitely. But before I'm pro-Black, I need to specify it. Pro-Black American first. Yes, I want to love all my Black people throughout the globe, but I gotta take care of home first. Remember one time I bought this boy a T-shirt as being a friend, and my mother's a very generous person. My mother found out, she was irritated with it. She was like, you know how hard I work to feed and clothe y'all? And I got what she was saying. You got to take care of home first. So yeah, I want to love all Black people except for the coons. I don't love a coon. Coons are coons are gone to me. But I love all Black people, but I got to take care of Black Americans first. So I'm pro-Black, but my Black American people got to come first. Descendants of American slaves, like most of us are in this country.
Cool. So we've had you on for a good minute. I want to give you a chance to, if you want to close out, I want to give you an opportunity to give individuals, you know how they can support you, how they can contact you, whether it's email, whether it's Cash App, whatever it is that you have, your campaign. I definitely want to, when we get off, hit me up. I want to hit me up with your number, man. We'll politic tomorrow, man. I want to sit down and pick your brain.
Okay, that's great. So thank y'all for having me, first of all. I just want to say, Clyburn, before I got to just throw this in, this is a fact, he's had 30 years.
Right.
We have the highest eviction rate. Like I said, all those things I went through. I mean, if we want more, if we think we're happy with the way things are, vote for him. If you like making excuses for the person representing you, vote for him. Okay? And you can make excuses. If you want to make a change, you vote for me. And a good change. We deserve better. It's marcelforcongress.com/donate. And it takes Cash App. I can do. My treasurer doesn't like it because it's hard to track down who gave it. And SEC has these crazy rules, but there is a way. They have a little system called Stripe that's kind of like a Cash App. But you can donate at marcelforcongress.com/donate. Voting has begun already. It started May 31st. It ends June 10th, early voting, and then June 14th is the actual date. If you like what you heard and you're convinced, and y'all could, I mean, I have a record going back 3 years, way before I decided to run, of going hard for my people. Please tell as many people as you can about me, because if not, we're going to lose this 1 million acres of land that we have now, which is nothing compared to what people in the country illegally have. We're going to end up losing that. And we're going to be landless in a country we built. That ain't going to happen on my watch.
Right.
We just have to.
But it's happening on Congress.
Oh, that's what's up, man. So one of your
thank you.
We got somebody that just donated, and then one of your actually was one of my clients. I own a barbershop in Goose Creek. Aaron Anderson, he's from your hometown. He said you're the homie, man. He said, "What's up?"
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "What's up?"
Yeah, I know his parents and all. Well, yeah, hey, Aaron.
Yeah,
I know he was in Charleston. I thought he was still in the Amazon.
Now he left. He's not in. I don't know where the hell he is now, but yeah, he's still my Facebook friend. Good guy. Yeah, Aaron's a good guy. He told me to tell you what's up, man, and much success to you.
Yes, he is in South Carolina, so you cannot. From everything I know, I don't think you can vote for him.
No, you can't vote.
Yeah.
I have some friends in North Carolina that would.
He's in Sumter? Where is he?
He's in Charlotte, Monroe, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They want to know how to vote for you.
They want to know how you can vote. But I just told them, tell all your friends and family that are in South Carolina.
You can write me in, but it won't count. But you can write my name in, but that won't count. But you can always You can write anyone's name in, really.
Yeah, write it in, man. Give them the interest. The interest level always peaks. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? And we hope you definitely win this time. If not, we behind you regardless what you got going on, bro. We very impressed.
Share this live.
Please share this live, like for real. This was very.
I'm going to do that. So thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, we're really happy to be a part of your success, bro. Because I mean, to be honest with you, this is not, regardless of whether. I'm not speaking no bad into you, but if this doesn't happen for you this time, it's next time, but we're happy to be part of your journey. I like your charisma. I mean, you're very articulate. I mean, you're very professional, and you're very informative, and you know what you're talking about. And so that means a lot, especially when dealing with people of different ethnicities. Dealing with our people in general, you know, our people are so skeptical and so cynical as it relates to critical as it relates to us.
Because we've been lied to so often. That's why we've been lied to so often.
Right.
So we're always like, I don't know about this.
You're right. And so I just appreciate you for you were just on point. Like you know, we gave you the floor and you just ran with it, man. And that's very important because people want to know that when we give you the baton, man, we want you to run with it, and we want to trust that you're going to be able to run with it. And I think a lot of things that you said tonight gave some people some assurance. And, you know, some people just speak, you know, everybody has a good speech, you know, everyone has a good speech. But honestly, I kind of felt where you were coming from, you know, because you're here, you're local, you can be touched, you're tangible for individuals they can actually see you and feel you and touch you and actually speak to you in person. So that's very, very important. So I appreciate you, bro. Anything that we can do, my wife and I mean, we're a loving family, man. We do these things. We do our podcast once a week. Anytime you want to get on, if you want to spread something to the community, just let us know, man. We'd love to have you on. You're always welcome. And I want my wife on. You have something you want to say?
No, thank you very much. And the guy who donated said he's in Chapel Hill, but he still donated. So for those of you who are not in South Carolina, you can still go to his website and donate. If you can't vote for me, you don't.
And thank you, Paul.
So Chapel Hill is in my blood. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, Paul. The tri-area. Right.
Yeah, she's a Tar Heel, man. We're gonna pray for her. We'll pray for her.
Right.
But yeah, man, I thank you so much, brother. Any closing words?
Nope, that's it. Thank you all for having me and just spread the word about me. That's really, I mean, even more than money at this point, word of mouth is extremely powerful. I've had people recognize me in Hampton because her nephew told her about me. He's in Philadelphia. And I've had people recognize me, you know, in Ridgeland because someone who doesn't even live here but knows them told them about me. So word of mouth is extremely powerful. And I'm going to share this. And thank y'all. We'll definitely keep in touch.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you.
All right, my brother.
Thank y'all. Take care.
All right, cool.